Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world.
Preaching freedom.
Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.
Yo, what up, world, man? I am glad to see y'all faces again. I am KJ Bradley, back with the best chaplain in the world. Thank you, sir, for holding it down last week. Your show was amazing. I got a chance to watch it in bunches because we were out of power. Getting used to this California power surging structure is a little bit weird. But what up, though, chap? Looking good, man. How you doing? Happy Father's Day, first and foremost.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm going to hang up now and make you do the next hour.
Listen, man, I don't know. Cali's weird, man. They have weekly scheduled maintenance on the electrical here, which is I haven't experienced that before. Well, not in America. I've experienced it, in Iraq or whatever. We've powered down and we've gone blackout before, but seeing it done here in America is weird. California is a weird place, man. It can be extremely beautiful and extremely rough, all within a couple of blocks. And we're getting our sea legs about us, but it is slowly getting used to. What's up, though, man? Busy week.
Yeah,
I was able to catch up.
No, not really. I mean, not much happened this week. I'm trying to think of anything that happened this week.
I can't put my finger,
especially on the
man.
global. Really, I mean, well, I will say this: I don't think I saw the announcement that Trump is the king now. I assume that if he was going to make that announcement, it would have been yesterday during the parade, and he'd come out and said, "I take the crown of America, and I am now your emperor. The Jedi have attacked me and left me disfigured."
Listen,
seriously, if he had done, how funny if he'd gotten up and said that. If he'd gotten up and said, "The Jedi have attacked me. They've left me disfigured."
Listen, man, I was surprised. Even here in our local community, there were no King's protests, and it's so weird, man. It's
stupid.
It's gonna
stupid.
sound crazy, right? But these protests lack flavor. They lack black people, and you can tell. There's no seasoning to it. There's no.
Why do they lack? Why do they lack? Why do they lack flavor?
Well, I mean, this is strictly all. I hate to put it that way, but this is America. Black people have been sitting this one out since the election, and rightfully so. I understand why. But these protests
it's because this is not okay, there you go. This is absolutely a coordinated movement. Yeah, my Wi-Fi has been weird. I don't know if I'm just in the wrong room or what. But yeah, this is coordinated. This is not let's
this has
let's
Democratic
talk.
Party written all over it. This is ridiculously dumb.
Oh yeah. And that's why I say it lacks for you saying it lacks flavor, I say it lacks heart. This is an absolute, when you can have X number of people show up right after an event and they have professionally made placards and they have an organized leadership. Well, that was hard enough for me to say, right? But I said, might need some help, KJ. But when you have this level of coordination, it makes you go, this is not real. It's not. In LA, it became this. I'd really like to know who thought no kings. I saw a pretty good meme on this. We already have a no Kings Day. It's called July 4th. That was, Trump is not trying to make himself the king. He's not in there to. Trump is there. You and I have talked about this multiple times. Trump is there to break the machine. He is there to cause chaos, to potentially.
I think Trump in 2017 was there to break the machine. Trump in 20 whatever year we're in he's a useful idiot.
Well, I know you think that, and I think that there is, to me, it's the reset button. It's not an easy reset, but unfortunately to me, the reset button is not enough because it's not in the right place. And I think that's where the fallout with Musk came in. I think Musk thought the reset needs to come from a financial reset, a true shrinking of the federal government, a hard look at things like Social Security, the entitlement spending, and I don't think that Trump is going along with that because he realizes that that is how you lose a midterm election as well. Because the minute you start taking money away from people's pockets, they get all pissed off, and people like their money. That's ultimately, I think, kind of what it is. And the tariffs, I don't know about the tariffs still because, was it a win? Was it a lose? Was it a wait and see? I think at the very least we're at a wait and see. The Doge stuff, I think it could have really been a real positive, but then it got wrapped up in a lot of stuff that it wasn't. It didn't come down to cost cutting. But the idea that if it was a cost cutting, it will be cost cutting down the road simply because it's took a look at contracts. But again, this is all. I like the ideas, but it's in the wrong places. Again, if you want to really make some significant changes to the financial status of America, why are we subsidizing massively large corporations that produce oil and petroleum products? Why are we subsidizing massive agro corporations? Yes, we love food and yes, all that stuff. But if we are subsidizing these giant corporations, how many corporations run the world? What is it, like 12 or something? They're all they're all subsets. Yeah, they're all intertwined and all that stuff. PepsiCo owns like 18% of the market and of different things, and so or whatever they are. And to me, that's really where it comes down to, is if you're serious about this stuff, then first of all, stop subsidizing mega corporations. You don't need, because, and I get it. The idea is you're not just subsidizing the corporations, you're actually subsidizing the stock market, which subsidizes the people that invest in the stock market, that subsidizes not only rich people, but middle-class people who invest. But realistically, that's where you make those cuts. That's where they need to be. As far as the government goes, yes, I think we are bloated as a government, and we need to reduce the workforce by probably 10 to 20%, depending on how you do it. But that doesn't mean you automatically cut the last in. Some of those people that are last in are the ones you want in there. What you really want to get rid of are those people that are there 10 to 15 year middle management that are sitting back just saying, hey, I'm a staff sergeant. I've already been in for 10 years. This sucks. I don't really want to do my job, but you know what? I'm close enough to retirement. I can suck it up for 8 to 10 more years, right? And I'm going to do the bare minimum. But instead of rewarding that specialist who is a hard charger or even a PFC, and you're going, hey, this kid, he could really, he should be running the shop. You have a staff sergeant. Well, I have the rank. But dude, you don't want to do anything. Yeah, but I'm the staff sergeant. I've earned this. Okay, so what are you going to do to fix the problem with your shop? Well, I mean, it's not really my fault that the shop is broken. Those are the guys you want to get rid of.
Yeah. So do you think those did their job?
I think it was a wash at best. I think that I like the idea, and I think that the way they did it, unfortunately, was the red tape, I guess, would be the way to get in the way. It's like you're going through.
There was no red tape. They did it. There was no red tape.
Well, no, there's always red tape in the government, dude. There's always something.
Who stopped them?
Oh, well, you have the media pushing back. You have the Democrats pushing back. You have the deep state pushing back. it's not that Doge had unlimited power, because you still bump up against legislative and laws, right?
Well, no,
so if you come
the legislative team was on their side. The reason people pushed back was because they were doing what they weren't supposed to do.
so
You
okay,
can't say here. I'll give you an example. Let me give you one example.
Sure.
Right? You can't say we're coming in to cut.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming in to cut finance. Right. That was their sole purpose. Right. Doge is created to
waste,
find the fraud. Waste.
get rid of waste, right?
6 months and not one DOD audit. The DOD has, as we've discussed several times, has never passed an audit.
Not in
ever.
20 odd years, 25 years, something like that. Yeah.
You create an organization who's coming in to find the fraud, waste, and abuse, and in 6 months they do not even sniff the DOD. Is a red flag. But what they did is they went in and they went into the IRS, they got all the social security numbers, they got all the personal data. They infiltrated DOE, they got all the loan information, borrowers information. So all of this stuff where it for me, it's another one of those, hey, this is what we're gonna do, but the minute you approve it, they go do something completely different, right? And then you sit back and look, oh, well, we tried. No, you really did not, if you look at it. Like, if you look at it objectively, what did Doge accomplish outside of stealing data, which is what I said they were going to do 6 months ago? They accomplished nothing. The savings that they found or eliminated were minuscule. We did nothing, but they cost money.
I don't disagree. Well, I don't disagree on the DOD part at all. But I think that when I say that the red tape and all that, because you can say the Republican legislative was behind Doge, but they didn't pass a single law to actually do anything. And that's part of the problem. It's a status quo. You can say, oh, yeah, I'm behind. Hey, dude, I'm behind you. You go do what you got to do. Hey, I need help with this. No, you go do what you got to do. Hey, we need to change the law here to fix this. Oh, well, you go do what you got to do. Well, but wait a minute. We need to look at how we're spending money. Yeah, but you go do what you got to. There's a point where, and this goes beyond Doge. This goes something I've been arguing now 10 years, is executive orders. Executive orders are not the way you're supposed to govern. And I get there are times where executive orders are, if not necessary, they are legitimate. But you've seen over the past 3 administrations, and I'm saying Trump, Biden, Trump, that has become the norm. And yes, they can sit there and they can say, well, it's because the legislature is ground to a halt. Okay, fine. But you know what? Part of the job of the president is to say, this is the policy that we want to pass, and then we need to come together and find that common ground. Famously, Reagan and O'Neill back in the early 80s on political sides were polar opposites, but they would sit down. If I remember the story right, they got together, I believe it was every single week, they sat down and had a lunch and said, all right, where are we? What can we do here? Like, what legitimately? One of the things I've argued, the best thing that happened to Clinton was the 94 red wave, the contract with America with Newt Gingrich. Because for those first 2 years, there was a Democrat Senate and there was a Democratic House. And then you added, so here, even then they got together and said, okay, so this, I want this, you want this, I want this, and those don't. But you know what about this? Yeah, I can do that. So the good ideas got through, and that absolutely helped Clinton. But we're at a point now where if you're a moderate, if you're a Manchin or a Romney or whoever in the middle, you're seen as somebody that is a rhino or whatever the equivalent of a Democrat rhino is. Dino? I don't know. But you even see that in the Democratic Party now. I think it was our good friend Governor Walz from Minnesota, the failed vice presidential candidate. He came back I think it was this week, and he said, the reason we lost is we didn't go far. The American people don't think we went far enough on the progressive side. Really? That's what you think the problem was? Okay. I mean, I hope so, because you see Republicans. I'm sure you saw the video of the guy who was in his car talking about the LA riots, and he said, and he basically said, "Hey, this, you know what? Keep going, because every person who sees this, you're creating a new red voter." Because you have people jumping up on burning down cars with Mexican flags, and it's the ads are writing themselves for Republicans, and there's a level of truth to that, but I think he's right. That said, I don't see anything that Republicans have done in the first. What are we now? 5 months, 6 months in? About 6 months in.
Yeah, 6 months in.
I've said give it time, and so it's not that I'm unimpressed, but I'm certainly not impressed. I think this has been 6 months of a lot of bluster, a lot of, hey, we're going to get we're going to swing for the fences, and I've basically seen a lot of foul balls that just right. We're still in the first at bat. We haven't gotten anything done. And all we're doing is fouling off pitches as a country. It's like, okay. And meanwhile, Israel's coming in and going, grand slam, boom. we're going to do something. So with that, let's switch to what's going on with Iran and Israel.
All right. So here we go. So I put this title caption up as Israel versus everybody, because right now it seems like Israel is just like, well, hell, we already started. We might as well just keep rolling. So, for those of you guys who don't know, Thad, what up, man? Hey, I'm so glad to see your face, brother. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, so Israel, the vulnerable country of Israel, who we have solemnly sworn to protect no matter what, has just been on a rampage. I remember I went back and I looked at a couple of episodes when they first started the issue with Hamas, and I said Israel is that drunk cousin that you really don't want to have around, but when they're family, so you have to protect them no matter what they do. And it's one of those things where it's like, okay, hey, I understand. Hamas bombed you unprovoked. You went scorched earth. Your justification was, well, they still have our hostages. You would do the same thing. And I said, okay, that's a weird flex, but sure. All right, cool. And then out of nowhere, they go shooting up Iran. And you're like, dude, why?
That's not out of nowhere.
You're like, why? No, Iran, I looked it up. So Iran has never preemptively struck at Israel. Even though it has been an existential threat for the last whatever. They've been mortal enemies for God knows how long. But Iran has never directly just sent missiles and struck at Israel unprovoked.
What was that word you just used?
Missile.
The D word.
Directly. Yeah.
Directly. Oh, how is Iran indirectly attacked Israel?
No, all right. So if turnabout's fair play, Israel has unequivocally messed with Iran consistently over the last 40 years.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Israel has become the king of throwing stones and then throwing their hands up and be like, well, we got to protect ourselves.
Directly. Absolutely. Okay. So here's my take on it. This is something that has been coming for 10 years, right? The idea of Iran having a weapon. I saw a British guy who was talking about this from about 8 years ago, and he said this is what's going to happen. It's basically what's happened. But Iran has within the last couple of months, the world watchdog, and I'm blanking the name of the nuclear watchdog. And it was the one that I know you don't. Yeah, it's the one they made fun on of Team America, Hans Bricks. Oh no, not Hans Bricks. Mr. Kim, you will do what we say, or else we are going to write you a very strongly worded letter. Oh no, not Hans Bricks. Fuck you, Hans Bricks. But basically, okay, so the International Atomic Agency. I think that's what it is. IAEA.
Yeah.
So they basically came out, I think, last month and said, yeah, Iran is just ignoring everything we're putting out. They are full of crap. They are well on their way. They are eminently going to be securing a nuclear weapon. Eminently. It could be a matter of days. And they have increased their production of nuclear weapon grade nuclear material by 50% increase in the last 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So to me, Israel's going, all right, we were really close to having a deal with Saudi before Hamas attacked us. We're already in a pretty good spot with Egypt because Egypt doesn't want to get involved in anything right now. Egypt's they're over there. Saudi, they're kind of, and Saudi doesn't like Iran either. Remember, Sunni and Shia. So
Sure.
Saudi is not on Iran's side. Gaza is now a war zone that has been completely destroyed. So Israel's not really worried about a lot of attacks coming from Gaza and Hamas right now. Hezbollah, if you remember a few months ago, they kind of went, oh yeah, well we're going to, and they got hit in the face and went, oh crap, no, we're out. The Houthis were like, oh yeah, but we have our, boom, and then the U.S. went, no, you guys are done. So now you've got Israel and Iran in a one-on-one situation. And you remember, I think it was last year, Israel punched a nice little jab right to Iran's face, right? They killed one of the top leaders. And Iran went, you can't do that to us. And they launched a couple missiles. And then, haha, you see what we did to Israel. Yeah. And Israel went, oh, yeah, oh, no, you blew up part of the desert. Oh, no. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're at a point where, and I understand the argument, because Israel will say with a straight face that we never instigate. We only react. And they will say that with a straight face no matter how many times that has been shown. That's wrong. Because what they do is they preemptively, they kick the guy in the balls and say, F you, you're not going to, hey, we're going to be in a fight. Hey, look over there. Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to knock you out. Hey, before we even, they're the guy in the bar who says, hey, you want to take this outside? And as they're getting ready to walk out, he grabs a bottle off the table and crunches them out. And then he throws them outside and say GTFO, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Which I understand, because at the same time, while they're in the bar, that dude has been talking smack. He's going to kick Israel's butt and really, mess him up. And his buddies are all around. Well, right now, there's no buddies around. It's Iran and Israel. And I think Iran's going, oh, crap. Well, we have these missiles, and we're going to launch these missiles, but Israel's going, go ahead. We've got, you look at the numbers
I don't think it's necessarily Iran, but Iran has never really been afraid of Israel, right? Because if it was one-on-one, Iran and Israel would be a coin toss, right?
Oh, no. I don't agree with that at all.
Iran has always been concerned and worried about who is backing Israel. Iran has shown restraint because they don't want the issues of America coming down on them after the fact. But just to play devil's advocate, right? As much as Israel sits back and says, "Well, we're constantly under attack. We got all these enemies around us." Iran has been like, "But dude, leave us alone, and we'll leave you alone. If you stop telling people that we're trying to kill you, we won't kill you." It's really that simple.
But Iran's whole thing is death to Israel, and you guys don't have a right to exist, and we're going to use every proxy we can to wipe you out.
It's both ways, though. Israel's whole thing is we have to preemptively strike, because if we don't, you're going to kill us. That's their whole methodology.
Right. Of course. But when you have somebody like Iran who has been saying, we want to destroy you, that this has been something since 1979 when the Ayatollah came in. And he said, we want Israel destroyed. Before the Ayatollah, shoot, this goes all the way back to 48 or 49 when Israel was first even created by the British Mandate, and they were immediately attacked by everybody in the region. And then you had the 6-Day War, you had the Yom Kippur War, right? So each time they have been attacked because they are seen as not only this. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure you can't put this in religious terms.
But you ever think about if everybody around you hates you, then maybe it's not everybody else's problem. Maybe you may be a problem. If everybody else in the region hates you, has the thought never crossed the mind that, hey, maybe, just maybe, we may be the problem? Israel strikes me as the woman who always dates bad guys and will come out and say, well, every guy sucks. Every guy sucks, without looking into
very different.
Like,
because if you look historically, okay, and you can go anciently, you can go fast forward to the time of Christ, you can fast forward into the time of the Roman Empire, fast forward to the Holocaust. You have the Jewish faith is a very interesting dichotomy, because the way Hitler put it is just insane. But this is kind of how it seems: is all the Jews are a bunch of evil, shape-shifting, horrible, less than human people who rule the world. Which is it? Are they the dumb mongoloid group that is subhuman, or are they so super intelligent that they control the world? You can't have it both ways. And that's what Hitler did that. I mean, Hitler full on was like, the Jews, they are the ones that made us lose the war with the generals, and if it wasn't for the Jews and all this stuff, and they are pieces of garbage, and they are worthless, and they are nothings, but they controlled the world and made us lose. What? So, the Holocaust. Now, would this same thing be happening if Israel had been created between Montana and Saskatchewan? I'm doing well with my words today. No, it wouldn't have been, right? But historically, if you go back anciently, because Israel was for thousands and thousands of years, they were in the Palestinian, the Canaan area, and that's where the UN decided to do it. And so now you fast forward from the late 1940s, multiple wars that have been gang up on Israel, and Israel has gotten, quite honestly, they've gotten kind of probably should have lost. If Egypt and Syria during the 6-Day War had actually attacked at the right time, I believe it was Syria that delayed, if I remember my history right. Egypt and Syria were supposed to attack at the same time and open a two-front war. It didn't work because Egypt went and Syria sat on their hands for about 3 days. And by the time Syria jumped in, the Sinai was already gone. Israel had gone in with the Air Force and wiped out the Egyptian forces. Then they were able to turn around, go north, and take out Syria. Now, I could be wrong, could be vice versa.
With the help of America.
Well, with the help of American arms. They didn't get help from American military, but yes, the arms, absolutely, right?
They had American advisors. That was an American mission, just like now. It's so. Here's the thing, right? We say, do you think Israel listens to America at this point as far as advisories go? Now, not so much, but then definitely. Okay. So here's the thing, right? So Israel, right after the reconsolidation and the divvying up of land, right, in the early 20th century. Imagine everybody in the region saying, all right, cool. Well, we got this minority stake, right? And we want to find a peaceful way. We know it's not going to be peaceful. We've been at this for thousands of years, but we're going to figure out a way. And the UN says, hey, no. We're the power brokers. We're going to take this small minority and we're going to designate all of this land, crossing all these cultural boundaries. And if anybody crosses this land or disputes this land, we are going to come at you with everything we got. we can see how that can cause friction in the region, right? Because you take a minor population and you just gave them land, which is cool, whatever, right? So then what happens is those who were given this land, this minority population who was given this land, comes back and says, you know what? Hey, not only do we want this land, we also want that. Can you help us get that? And the footprint keeps growing and growing. While everybody in the region is saying, hey man, you weren't supposed to get that land, just be cool. And it just continued to grow. And what Israel says, well, if we don't get that land that we were rightfully owed, we're going to fight you for it. But they're not fighting fair.
So, and I completely disagree with you on that historically, because if you want to say that Israel should not have been made in 1949, I think it was 1949. Fair. I mean, you can make that argument. Okay, we'll make that argument, but it did happen. And as soon as that happened, as well, but part of the British mandate was there was going to be a Palestinian state as well, and that was declined to happen. They said, if we accept that Israel is here and we accept this peace deal to also have a Palestine, no, whether you make Israel or not, if you make Israel and give us, and we accept that, I mean Israel, and they never, the Middle East never wanted Israel to come back because, like you said, it's land, right? So what they do, the first thing they do is, as soon as the mandate happens, within a year, boom, they attack, and Israel went, okay. Spoils of war, which is a normal thing. We kicked your butt, so now we're gonna expand. We're gonna keep the Sinai. We're gonna keep the West Bank. We're gonna keep Gaza. We're gonna keep the Heights. The next time, and so Israel started, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then over the last 50 years, they've given stuff back. Now, that is not to say that there haven't also been individual settlements that have gone in and popped up that shouldn't have popped up according to their own rules, right? And it probably would have helped if Israel had said, okay, hey, here's our border, guys, so let's not go into their areas, let's back off. But at the same time, I'm sure the justification in a large part is, I really don't care that this is a border. If I want to move there because we just had some dude go in and blow up a bus in Tel Aviv.
Do you know why? Because I got the preeminent power of the world behind me. And if anybody crosses me, all I got to do is make a call and say, hey, we're being attacked. Come defend us, right?
But here's the interesting...
So here's the thing. If Israel had been left alone to its own vices, right? We say, okay, Israel, here is your land. You are now a country. Good luck. We'll get you set up. We'll give you everything you need to defend yourself, and then go about it. If you get taken over or whatever, sorry, right? I mean, alliances have been formed, whatever, right? But what happened was Israel became the chihuahua in the region, right? They kept nipping at the heels of everybody because they had the damn kennel behind them, protecting them. That's all that was. That's all it's still evident to this day. Israel, everything that Israel's shooting is not from Israel. And it's twofold, because the United States uses Israel to do its dirty work. You know what I'm saying? We understand the game. We both know, we both have been around the tactical operational sphere long enough to know that it's pay for play. And the United States has used Israel as their pseudo henchmen for decades now, right? Oh, sure. They do the work that we can't do. So it's one hand washes the other. But we got to get to a point to where we got to start calling this thing out, equally and fairly. Hey, okay, Israel, stop fucking with people. To put it crass, stop fucking with people. Nobody, people will probably be a lot more open to diplomatic means to help you if you stop fucking with them.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
Again, in 2000, let's go back and look. Here, as recently as 2000, I think it was 2011, Obama had the Middle East Accord, where Iran was like, all right, cool. Hey, man, to appease America, we are cool. Bring Israel to the table. We'll come to the table, and we're done. It was all but wrapped up. But then the predecessor of Obama came in and said, you know what? No, bump that. Iran, you don't get a seat at this table. We'll defend Israel. And then the red team got all up in arms about it, and they got all antsy and loud like they did, and they squashed it. So at this point, if you sit back and you look at it like that, you got to say, all right, well, this is done objectively. It's not a matter of peace. It's a matter of, all right, we have to keep this going.
So, okay, a few things I want to touch on. The U.S. has had the back of Israel since its formation in 1949, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who was supporting all the Arab states since 1949?
Yeah. Russia.
Who? There you go. So this isn't just this wasn't just this was absolutely a proxy thing. A lot of this has been proxy wars, right? So the U.S. supporting Israel is not a surprise when you go, okay, well, the Russians are supporting Syria and Iran and all those. Okay. So the other part of what's going on is you've never had Iran even recognize Israel. They don't even say Israel. They say that country. It's like BYU in Utah. It's so funny. The University of Utah, you'll hear their coaches say, that school down south. They won't even say BYU. That's what Iran and Israel are like, right?
It's a rival. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's why I'm saying, like, at this point, yeah, because Israel does America's dirty work, especially in the Middle East. It's their only democracy in the Middle East. It's the only country that has the intestinal fortitude to basically say, you know what? We are in a legitimate kill or be kill situation. And so, yeah, we're going to do what we got to do. If it's a knife fight, we're bringing a gun, right? The U.S., we always talk about in the U.S., you and I are both soldiers, right? So when we talk about, well, the terrorists aren't following the Geneva, well, why should we? And what's the answer for every American soldier? Because we wear this flag on, we have higher standards. And Israel goes, we don't give a flying F about that. We don't want somebody sneaking up behind us and slashing our throats, right? So I don't have a big problem with Israel going in and taking out the nuclear, I don't even know. The last report I said was, or the last report I saw was not all of the sites were rendered inoperable. I don't know how you would, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, but I think that what's going to happen in the coming weeks is you're going to have, Iran's going to launch a bunch of Scud missiles, and Israel's going to keep striking, and they're going to escalate. It's not going to go nuclear because Israel's the only one with a nuke. If it goes nuclear, it's gonna be on Israel's part because they're the only one with one. But I think at that point they would actually lose the support of the U.S. So they can do everything up to excluding. Because I think if they dropped a new, because you remember back in the day, you're talking about the mid 2000s. You and I both know that if they had done a DoD poll that said, should we end this war blast factory, it would have been 95% that said yes. Yeah, go ahead and just drop big one on Tehran and we can all go home, right? Because Tehran was backing everything after 2003. That was all Tehran. That wasn't the Iraqi people per se. That was the Iranians coming in and killing all of our guys, all the IEDs, all the shape charges.
But we knew that though. We knew that.
Right, but at the same time, by knowing it but not willing, it was Cambodia 2.0. It was we know everything's going through Iran, but we as Americans, Iran didn't officially declare war against us, which is ironic because we didn't declare war against Iraq either, technically. So, but it was one of those. It was one of those things that America, even America, we kind of went. But I remember reading a story. I think I've told you this story before, but I remember reading a story years ago that Israel had a team ready to go assassinate Saddam Hussein well before the Gulf War, right? Yeah. And the second Gulf War. And they had the team ready to go. And the day before they were doing their final run through, which was with live ammo, and they actually had a mishap and a hand grenade went off and it killed like five of the 12 team members, which made them combat ineffective. So of all the what ifs in the world, like, you think, where would we be today if instead of having to go in and have Gulf War 2.0 if that hand grenade hadn't gone off and Mossad had gone in and actually assassinated Saddam Hussein, how much different this world would look right now. It's one of those really interesting.
But it's then Rumsfeld wouldn't have made money, right? We were going to Iraq regardless. We were going to Iraq regardless.
I don't think so. If that happens, I think it would have been something else. But you're right. Yeah, I think you're right about the money.
You had to secure the stability of the region, right? That was the whole thing. Like the whole vision was we were going to expand the democratic footprint, right? Iraq would now become a second democratic foothold. However, the democratic elections in Iraq did not turn out the way we thought they would. So go figure with that.
Well, I think the bigger thing there also is just the absolute ridiculous miscalculation of firing everybody in the Iraqi government. Cool. And not hiring. Oh, you were a Ba'ath Party guy? Nope. And if you contrast that with what happened in Japan with what MacArthur did, MacArthur went in and he basically said, "All right, who are your top guys?
Yeah,
get them in here. Hey, are you willing to work? You guys lost. Now, of course, there's a cultural difference here, and the Japanese were like, "We lost. You win. We'll do what you say." But MacArthur didn't go in and shut down the police force and shut down the all the stuff that goes along with the government.
A huge mistake.
Oh, it's probably the biggest mistake the U.S. has made in the past 30, 40 years, especially geopolitically. I think that was. I understand the idea behind it. Oh, we're going to go in and we're going to make Iraq into. But you can't do this with people. Americans are very, very bad about understanding other cultures. It's, well, we're Americans. This is everybody democracy.
Yeah.
You want to be like America, don't you? Everybody loves America. Hey, we've seen to Poland. If you want to go to another country, you want to be in America. We're the best.
Yeah.
I get it. But at the same time, you can't take somebody who is a goat farmer and say, we're going to bring you to... Do you remember the movie with Robin Williams where he was a Russian dissident who comes from he defects from, I don't remember what he defected from, but he comes to America, right? And he defects and he goes to the grocery store for the first time and he's standing there and he can't move because he's in a supermarket, just a normal supermarket, but there are so many choices. He's paralysis by analysis because he's going, how do you have all these stuff? What we don't have the his Russian brain was not able to understand it. And Americans are kind of like the exact opposite. It's like, well, I can't. It's just a supermarket. What do you mean? You go in and you buy what you want. And he's going, you have 50 different kinds of cereal. When I have to stand in line for 3 hours to get a box of whatever cereal they give me. And you have how do I choose? And so I think that when you have a situation where, like right now with Israel and Iran, I think the U.S. is going to continue backing Israel, as they always do. I don't think there's a red line other than the nuclear. And I think that here's part of the other problem. And this goes back to kind of the conspiracy, little tin hat stuff going on. Well, Israel just came in and hit the oil of Iran right now. Remember, the oil market, the crude oil manufacturing in Israel it's not what it used to be. I believe it's under 5% of the world. But if you take out 5% of the oil producing nation, that's going to affect the money. Moscow on the Hudson. Thank you, Thad. Yes, that's exactly what it was. And if you are, it's almost like you study movies there, Thad. But if you go in and you do that, so my question is, and this is something with the conspiracy theory that you sent me on Friday morning about the Pizza Hut Domino's or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like if you had a smoking gun of a message went out to certain Trump supporters that said you might want to short your oil for the next 3 months, maybe you have something, right? We'll see how it goes. I don't think this is going to turn. I think we're at the point where maybe Russia Ukraine is the last true boots on the ground war that we're going to see, maybe ever. Just because of the technology with drones and some of the other stuff we have. And at that point, then the real question becomes, is America still, yes, you have the nuclear and all that. But like boots on the ground, I'm not sure boots on the ground is ever going to happen again, because does Israel put boots on the ground? Now, yes, they're in Gaza, get it. But I don't know. I don't think this escalates into a Israel. Here's what I hope happens. I hope Israel goes in and kills every top person they can find in Iran, and America actually supports the Spring Revolution in Iran like it should have done back with Iraq in 91, 92, when we didn't. If we had supported the people of Iraq like we promised in 91, or was it 90? We don't have Gulf War. It was my junior year in high school, so it was 90 or 91 when the first Gulf War happened. If we had supported the Iraqi people like we promised, and the revolution had happened, but instead we cut base. We cut them off, and we didn't support them. It was very much a Bay of Pigs. I'm surprised there weren't more comparisons of the Bay of Pigs. But if we had supported them like we were supposed to and like we promised, we never get to Gulf War II. We're a very different world. So I'm kind of hoping that what happens in Iran from this whole thing is they do rise up. You look at pictures of Iran from the mid-'70s. Iran in the mid-'70s was New York, Los Angeles, St. Louis. It looked like a normal American world where women walked around in skirts and men walked around in ties and suits, and it's something that I think would be great if they rose up and they were able to overthrow the theocracy that they have. I just don't know if they will. I mean, you've had now 50 years of death to America and the West is evil. How do you overcome that? I don't know. But it's going to be interesting because I don't think they're going to get support from the rest of the region. If it's Israel and Iran, it's going to be a one-on-one, and Iran cannot win a one-on-one militarily with Iran technologically. If Iran is somehow able to get
if they're backed by if with America standing back in the shadows, punching, doing their hand like this, watching, right? It's like being on the schoolyard fight, right? Like you got two kids in the middle of the circle, and technically it's a one-on-one fight. But one kid knows if he whoops that other dude's ass, he's got to fight the rest of the friends in the circle sitting in the back watching. So you're kind of Iran is kind of in the spot, like, because you got to keep in mind, like, all right, just for as long as Israel has been prepping for Iran has been prepping just as hard, if not harder, for Israel.
Sure.
That's why we're seeing these new hypersonics that are starting to land in Israel. Like that Golden Dome has been there almost 30, 40 years. You don't think Iranian scientists haven't been planning and plotting how to get through it for the last 40 years? They haven't been sitting on their hands. So
do you think those are Iranian? Do you think those are Iranian scientists who are coming up with that stuff, or another country a little bit further north?
Well, I mean, the same way, Israel's weapons are,
I'm not,
suspiciously painted red, white, and blue. It's one of them things. That's how it works, man. And that's why I try
almost like geopolitical.
Yeah, it's like I try to tell people, man, don't get caught up in what you see on the news. You got to look behind peek behind the curtain and see who the real wizard is. This is, this is
probably Oh, for sure. And you have to wonder with Russia what's going on with Russia, because remember the Ukraine war was supposed to last for like 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, I mean that drone strike really messed them up. They were not that was tactically brilliant. I stood up and I clapped when I saw that. I was like, that is fantastic.
And that is why at this point, when I see articles in the New York Times about has the US lost the high ground militarily because of drone strikes, I actually worry about that. Because China, you legally, if I remember right, you can't, they have passed laws in America that have kept it illegal to actually build American drones.
Well, you
So
got to
unless
keep
the
in mind,
unless the
those,
military is building them,
well, no, those drones, I don't know
they're
where
all
they coming from.
Chinese. They were all
Yeah, but
Chinese. Yeah,
I
they're off the
mean,
shelf. Half of them,
yeah, when you look at it, when you look at it tactically, they had those drones. They sent them drones in on supply trucks at the beginning of the war, right?
right?
So you have
On
to start
trucks.
thinking tactically. You got to start thinking tactically. How much crap has China shipped to us that are sitting in warehouses? You know what I mean? Like I've
And
been out of
how many military age young men
yeah.
have come across the
You
southern
know what I'm saying?
border?
Yeah. Like I'm sitting here. I've been out the tactical game for a while, but I'm like, yo, that's interesting, right? Like if that doesn't raise a red flag for like the populace in America, because we got a general conception here in America that we're untouchable, right? And we
Oh,
were, right? Nobody was gonna land ships or planes in America and put boots on the ground. But in this new war space, in this new digital war space where we got hypersonics and we got drones that are capable of reaching out and touch you, you got to really be concerned that, hey man, we aren't as secure as you think we are, right? There's just no way. Like I'll give you a prime example. That beeper technology that they used, that Israel used, that was early 2000s tech. You know what I mean? That was early 2000s tech, and it was supremely efficient, right?
and it was stuff they put into place
Yeah,
years ago.
you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
the tactician in me is thinking like, man, that is if they were able to pull, it's like Bugs Bunny pulling that old, pulling the old Acme sign out his bag, man. We are we got
so
other stuff to worry about as
well,
a country.
so part of the problem that the U.S. and you know this and I know this is that we're at war.
Absolutely.
We are at cyber war with both Russia and China right now. Everybody else, yeah, okay, you could say Ukraine even or whoever, yeah, okay. But we are in active warfare, literal active warfare on the cyber side against both China and Russia right now. This is why the Space Force and getting into space is such a big deal. Because space, you could do some certain things in space that you can't do here in the US. And, if you are, I don't think the US has a plan to do anything against China if there were to be a active shooting war, because we would be so reliant on aircraft carriers and missiles and all that stuff. And this idea, and maybe it's fair, maybe it's a fair idea, that we don't really need to worry ourselves about China all that much simply because there's this thing called the Pacific Ocean between us.
Yeah.
And it's basically you can't really America cannot be defeated by land forces.
Right.
We've seen it. It's called Red Dawn.
Right.
It just
Right.
you come across the borders, you're going to have a bunch of rednecks running through the woods
Well,
saying, "Let's go shoot us some Chinese people."
Well, there's a reason why America and Russia have remained the two most dominant, empires of the 20th, 21st century, because you can't invade them in traditional manners. Now, in this
Right.
new digital landscape, that's why controlling those chips are so important. And I keep
Oh
telling
yeah.
people that's why people are saying our reliance on China is going to come back to bite us in the butt sooner rather than later, because in this new digital warscape,
Yeah.
he who owns the tech owns the upper ground, right? I remember coming up, we said we own the night, right? That was our thing. We own the night. We own the night. Well, there is no more night. It's 24 hours daylight.
Yeah.
So, um, you know, people are getting attacked in broad daylight, and we have to do a better job as a nation. But see that again, that's what bothers me with this whole administration and all the the left and right. You got the war within with the Christian national movement. You know what I'm saying? We can agree to disagree on some of the finer nuances of Christian nationalism. I think that's the most existential threat to the nation, in since its inception. But I digress. That diversion, that pseudo white supremacy diversion, is going to end up costing us because, like I showed you with the whole pizza thing, right? You have our Pentagon, and these were a bunch of school age kids who created an app to track the volume of orders in correspondence
That's
to
on
the news
Google.
cycle. That's what I'm saying.
That's on
These
on Google.
yeah. So, but my point is, if kids are able to figure this out with rudimentary technology, what are our near peers surveilling us, right? As a targeteer, you sit back and you say, okay, well, we don't want to get into a point to where we're creating patterns or we want to be tracked or that sort of stuff. This administration is extremely lackadaisical with their procedures to the point where it's almost it's almost comically braggadocious, right? It's like we've become the real life.
Good word.
You know what I mean? You cannot. We're America, so what? Yeah. So okay. So I was using unsecured, WhatsApp or whatever to send messages. So what? What? We're the ones that make it. We're the ones that make it. Who's gonna stop us? You know what I'm saying? We gotta realize and we gotta understand. But I mean, at its core, Lance, at its core, right? We can agree to disagree, all this other stuff. You put the red and blue stuff to the side. At its core, you and I both know if you can be tracked by the enemy, you are in danger. There is no other way to put it. If you can be tracked by the enemy, you are in danger. And if our administration is doing things to where we can be tracked by school age kids, imagine what our near peers are, what information our near peers are gathering on us. That is a serious concern.
So the first thing on the pizza thing, okay, if you don't know what that is, there's these kids that look back and they said there was a spike, what was it, Friday morning in the number of pizzas that had been ordered. And so because there was this spike, therefore the U.S. actually did know what was going on in Israel when Israel was attacking Iran, because they obviously ordered all these pizzas so they could go in and watch the live stream. And so the U.S. was lying when they said we didn't really know what was going on in Israel. Okay, so that's kind of the backstory of that. For this incident. So for me, I look at that and I go, I mean, I'm sure any time of day of year you could have certain things where you go, boom, here's this beep. After the fact, it turns out, oh, hey, there was this special legislative session, or hey, there was this emergency, whatever. There was no specifics to it. That's why, to me, that one doesn't matter. The signal one, that's obviously a bigger one. But the problem with the signal and the chips and all that, my concern is that I think I would guess, and I have absolutely zero insight. I don't have any insider baseball, anything on this, but I would guess somewhere between 60 and 70% of every single computer and electronic device and surveillance and camera, etc., already has Chinese malware in it, and they can shut it down by pressing a single button.
I agree. All right, so we're going to cut it short here. For those guys that are watching us on Roku, thank you so very much for another episode. We're glad to have you guys. We will see you guys next week. For those of you guys who are following us on social media, if you're on Roku, hop over on social media, come join us, join the conversation. For everybody else, we're going to keep rocking here in a sec. So we're going to pause, do our little tactical pause X right here. Okay, cool. Now we're back. But yeah, so I have to agree, man. It's just one of those things where, I don't know. Like I said, I've always said this to you, and I've been consistent. I've never been concerned with a Trump presidency. He is no smart. He is no more smart or dumb than any other president involved. Right? I told you my biggest concern with his administration is the people who he is allowing to manipulate him in the administration. And 6 months in, we can say Rubio was a solid pick, right? Depending, you can have your own personal rights with Rubio, but I think Rubio was a smart play.
He's been good.
Outside of that,
Yeah, he's been solid.
Outside of that, these dudes are the worst kind of.
Let me bring up one. Let me bring one up. And first, before I bring the one up, I want to make something up. I want to make a point. We still don't know who was running the presidency for the last 2 years of the Biden administration. Okay, because it wasn't Joe Biden. Now, I saw one that I thought, if this is true, and I didn't have a chance to go fact check this, but if this is true, I saw a video that said that the top 10 FBI most wanted list basically didn't change for 4 years under Joe Biden. Like, it was the same top 10 guys. Like, there were maybe one guy got caught. And Kash Patel came in, and within 6 weeks, they had captured every single one of the top 10 on the FBI's most wanted list. Now, again, I have not fact checked it. I don't know.
That sounds like an X meme.
And it might be.
That sounds totally like an X meme.
Well, but again, it was one of those things that I saw on a video. I'd be curious. I'd be very curious to know, because, it was one of those reaction videos of somebody going on, and it was like they were on, I'm watching this guy on NBC Morning News or something like that. So I don't know. Yeah. But honestly, I mean,
absolutely not perfect.
I'd be curious. I don't know. I want to know, but the thing is, and the reason I say that is this. And this should kind of lead us into our next one. I have a good friend who I've known for a long time, Debbie, who used to work in California with me with Operation Care and Comfort, and she was talking about how proud she was about the parade that happened yesterday and the Army 250th, and how she saw that some troops were griping that they had to participate, or that there even was the parade or whatever, right? And what I said to her was, well, that's part of the manipulation. And she said, well, I didn't see any manipulation by Trump. He got up and he said how proud he was of the troops, and it was all about the birthday. And I was like, no, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the media manipulation. I've seen that in my friends. I've seen people on Facebook that have bought hook, line, and sinker things that the media puts out about very important things, like what's going on in Gaza. I have a friend that is all in on the Gaza thing, and whenever I point out and say, there's still hostages, Hamas is still holding hostages. Well, that doesn't matter. It matters. It matters to Israel. It matters to the families that have their hostages. And then I love the one. Then the response is, well, Israel has 1,000 Palestinian hostages. You mean prisoners in jail, in prison? Those aren't hostages. Those are prisoners. Okay. So there's this manipulation by the media. And so that's where something like what I said about Kash Patel, I don't know if this is true or not, but let's say for a second it was true. And if somebody can fact check it, I don't know. But if it were to be true, none of the good stuff gets reported, because the media doesn't care about not just Trump. Okay, let's go back to Greg Easterbrook, Greg's argument. Greg's whole thing regarding the media is basically the critique that we are in the best place in the history of the world. We have the best technology. We have the lowest amount of hunger. We have the lowest amount of disease. We have the lowest amount of combat deaths in history. We live in not even arguably, pretty objectively, the greatest time in the history of the world. And all we do is complain about how bad the world is. That's it. And so when you have the media who is constantly saying, and don't get me wrong, Fox News does it when Biden was in, and everybody else does it with Trump, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this is not just a one side. even you and I, like for all the things we sit here, I think we still do a pretty good job. We focus on a lot of the negatives, but we're saying, but we still appreciate certain things, and we are happy about certain things. Even right now, talking about and saying, hey, look, it's amazing. You just moved from South Carolina to California, and you and I can still get online and have a conversation. And we do this. We don't make any money off of this. We do this because, for me, with my kid, my wife goes, "Oh, why do you do this?" It's like it. I told him today. Yeah. I told him today. I was like, hey, she said, "Do you have anything going today?" I said, "Yeah, I have my KJ time tonight." And
that's it.
My podcast. That's it. I get to go talk to KJ. I'm talking to my friend, and we happen to talk about politics. Oh, okay. So the fact that we're able to do that, I mean, this is the type of thing. If you were to say 200 years ago to people, like, and it's why the Constitution cracks me up when people say, the argument against the Second Amendment. Well, the framers of the Constitution didn't imagine you'd have machine guns that could fire 600 rounds in a minute. Yeah, they also didn't realize that with free speech, I could be talking to somebody in New Zealand right now, literally live. Do you think they thought about that when it came to free speech? And I love the people who say that stuff. So you're arguing on your computer on social media that the framers couldn't imagine guns that fired a lot of bullets all at once. Okay. So
that's what. Yeah, that's a weird argument because it's. I don't know.
So we're in a situation with Trump, or anybody really, but Trump especially. There is a special. You've got to admit there is a special vitriol for Orange Man bad, right? And it's always worse with Republicans. But 3 of the top 10 most wanted have been captured. Hey, that's great. Three out of 10 is still pretty. That's pretty significant in a matter of a few weeks. So yeah. So I don't know where that guy was coming from, but hey, Thad, I appreciate the fact check on that. So. At the same time, was that reported? I hadn't heard anything. Had you heard anything about the 3 of the 10 since Kash Patel's come in have been captured? That's pretty significant. That's pretty impressive, right?
I mean, you know, I'm not a fan of the FBI, so I could care less.
That's beside the point.
I could care less. It's one of them things where it's like, oh, okay, cool.
You and I are not going to have a lot of disagreements about our opinion of the FBI. And or many government organizations. The irony is we both made our living off of a very large, if not the largest, federal agency. But at the same time, we were part of that, and hey, if you ask me, I think I did a pretty good job of making my little piece of the world better, despite being stabbed in the back multiple times by other soldiers.
In your circle,
in my inner circle, inner circle, I got stabbed.
Yeah, you're like, what the hell? Man?
Yes, I got stabbed. And again, my wife doesn't want me to ever tell the story on media because she's like, it won't do you any good. I was like, well, I definitely won't do it before.
Yes, not before. Afterwards,
I retire. Maybe what I think I might have to do. I might have to do the Substack thing. I might have to do it as a series. But okay, I don't know what that is. Somebody, I don't know if we have is that a bot? Hi, bot. Yeah. We love bots. That's our first bot, though. I don't think we've had a bot comment yet. Does that mean we're making the big time?
I'm telling you, listen, we are moving up on the world.
We have a bot.
We got a Twitch bot.
Yeah, we have Thad and a bot. But. Realistically, when we're looking at like the parade, like again, I look at it and go, it was a parade. It was the 250th parade. I remember when I went through basic training, it was the 200. It would have been the 201st Army birthday. I remember doing a parade. I never once thought it was like anything special outside of, hey, it's the Army's birthday and anything special, like weird special. I mean, but I tell you right now, I still remember. That was the first time that I was in uniform and I really got it because I was standing in formation and they did the national anthem and it was the Army's birthday and I had tears going because I was now part of that brotherhood. And so I didn't watch the parade. I flipped it on YouTube and I went click, 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 click. Like literally, I just clicked through the 2 hours just to see. I was like, oh, cool. They have something. But at the same time, I also remember when they did those, and I was like, okay, do we really need to stand out here in Fort Leonard Wood in 90-degree heat and 70% humidity, and we're all sweating our testicles off? And at the meantime, it was like, here we have Private Johnson in a World War I outfit, blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, who's the next one who's going to... All you're doing is looking around going, who's going to fall next? Who's the next one who's going to pass out?
Taking bets. Taking
bets, yeah, right? How many is going to... Yeah. So, the parade, I think it's funny for the parade to then become part of this no kings thing, because I don't know where this came from. I think it's bad marketing, honestly, whoever came up with the no kings, because it's not... It's definitely AstroTurf. This is not a natural thing. And then here's the funniest part, and I don't know if you're going to agree with me. Oh, I have somebody sneaking in. I have a child behind me sneaking in.
I thought that was one of my rappers.
I read today that Trump is going to start reducing the roundups based on his Secretary of, and I didn't read the whole article, based on the recommendation of the Secretary of Agriculture, because the farmers have been, once again, the argument, who's going to pick our fruit? And so now you talk about where's the slippery slope. If you're Trump and you're going to say, we are serious about immigration, we are serious about closing the border, we are serious about getting people who are not supposed to be here out of the country. We're going to get rid of people who have overstayed their visas. We're going to get people who came across the border illegally. And we're going to do all this. Oh, what? Oh, there aren't enough people picking lettuce in California? Well, except for those people in California that are picking lettuce and strawberries. You know what? You can't do that. It's insane. You can't. If you are going to say we are going to be a nation of laws, and we are going to take this wife who's here illegally from this husband, and now we're giving, it's kind of the opposite side. We're going to give the Democrats, now look, here's their ad. All they have to do is say, look how much the Republicans hate families and don't care about what the family structure is. And who cares? She was in America since she was 14, and Guadalupe had a stable home and was living in America for 20 years. She'd been married to her husband, Raul, who is an American citizen. During that time, they had a very difficult time with finances and both worked hard and didn't have the chance to buy an immigration, to hire an immigration lawyer, because they trusted for the American government to protect them. And And the Republicans came in and ripped Guadalupe out and sent her back to Mexico, where she is now, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, you're writing the same thing, the same type of, So it's so stupid, because there are such simple ways. Again, you and I, POGs Save the World, we talk about solutions. There is such a simple way to fix this. I wrote this on Facebook. You can pass 2 laws that will eliminate 90% of the problems we have. Number 1, it is required to be a U.S. citizen and have a valid United States citizen identification to vote. That's number 1. Number 2, the census will only count United States citizens in their census. So what would that do? Okay, so now you just eliminate anybody who's potential, and people have said, well, there's not widespread fraud. Doesn't matter. It's a perception. You want to have people vote who are citizens. You provide the IDs. You let anybody who needs one, if they can validate it by mail. And I had a friend argue this on Facebook. He said, well, it's really tough for certain people, for poor people and people who are in rural areas and people of color to get an ID like that. And I said, dude, you have a really low opinion of people who live out rural people or black people or whoever you're saying. I trust black people to be able to go and get an ID. I think black people are just as capable as white people of going and getting an ID. Call me crazy, right? But the second thing is when you have, let's say, 5 million people come into the country, what that does is it does throw off the representation. Because if you take 500,000 people and put them in New York City, well, Utah needed another 30,000 citizens to get a 5th congressional seat. But because New York City had 500,000 more people, Utah didn't get that extra seat. So that's a big deal, right? And I understand the whole argument, misrepresentation, because Wyoming has more representation than New York based on a per capita, and that's why senators versus how. I get all that stuff, right? But if you pass those 2 laws, and that's before you even get into temporary migrant. Look, if somebody wants to come to America and pick fruit, cool. You come across, get your card, beep, little biometric. You walk in, you work for the 6 months, just you, not your kids, just you, and you want to send your money back at a reasonable tax rate because, President, what's her name I want to say it's Scheinbaum, but that sounds racist.
The Mexican president?
The Mexican president. It's a Jewish name. It's like Scheinbaum or something like that. Yeah.
How in the hell did they pull that off?
Yeah, she's apparently not even from Mexico. At least I read something. I don't know if that's true or not. But she's Jewish. I know that. Or, well, I mean, ethnically Jewish. Or yeah. She's not a practicing Jew. But like, there's things that could be done. Again, it's kind
of the whole census thing. I understand it, but again, Constitution. If you change it, great.
It's not there. Constitution doesn't say anything about it outside of it has to be done.
Has to be
and
done.
Congress decides how it's done.
Right. And everybody had to be represented. Well, I think you posted 2-1, right? Article 2, Section 1.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't say how, right? All it said was every free. I believe it says every free citizen, and then it went into the whole 3/5, and that's been changed obviously since
not
then.
Citizen, every free person.
Every free person.
I think that was the nuance. It was,
and so yeah.
That's
Scheinbaum. Oh, I got her name right.
Yeah. That's how you were able to get to that whole 3/5 thing, because every free person, they was like, well, the South has more slaves than we do, blah 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 blah. So that's where that came from.
Well, and the irony of the 3/5 again was it wasn't racist in terms of we want to degrade black people. It was we didn't want to give the South more power,
overwhelming power, right?
To overwhelm the black, to use when you're not letting black people vote. Well, why are we counting black people in the census if they can't vote, and we're going to give you more power in the South that will actually hurt black people even worse?
Is that not the same argument?
I don't think it is, because when you're coming from another country, this is what I've said too. My sister was arguing with me about this, and she said, "Well, why can't people come here? And I've heard this argument from a lot of people. If you lived in one of these other countries and you weren't able to get a job or make money, and you knew you could go to America and you could make money and support your family, wouldn't you want to?" And I said, "Of course, sure." But where's the line? Where's the line of borders don't matter anymore then? And you have to have a procedure. You have to have rules in place. And if the rules are you can only come in, unfortunately, through a lottery or through a time and money consuming, and it's unfair that somebody can drop $5 million on a Trump gold card, well, that's life. Life's not fair. You and I both teach our kids life's not fair, and it'd be great if
historically borders and managing populations have always been a thing, right? You've always had to come in through a central checkpoint. You had to state the reason why you were there, and if you overstayed it, they would round you up. It was a lot easier back when things were contained, because hey, that house ain't supposed to be there. Who the hell lives there? You get what I'm saying? So people tend to get that whole concept of, immigration control is bad. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the history of the world. The theory of immigration control is great. The correlation I was making between the 3/5 rule and the immigration issue of today is they counted all of those black people, right, who didn't have a chance to vote, who don't have any representation, right? They're just
Right.
here, right?
Right.
They're here
For sure.
and the people were profiting off of their labor. There's a lot of correlations there, right? You have the immigrants who the immigrants are not allowed to vote, even though the perception is that they're voting, they're not. But the perception, I get the whole perception is reality thing. They're not. It's just not.
It's not hold on. It's not widespread, but it happens. It happens.
And it happens. And according to what's on record, it happens more on the red side than the blue side. But it happens. But again, I understand the perception of it, right? But here's the thing. Those immigrants who come in, when they buy from our grocery stores, when they buy from our gas stations, when they drive on our roads, when they pay the tolls, they are paying into a system that they get no benefit from, right? When they're out working those fields for pennies on the dollar at a low rate, they are benefiting a system that they don't receive the benefit back from. So that's duality. How?
Okay. Because so let's say somebody is picking. Let's go nice round numbers, right? Somebody's picking strawberries on the side of on the California coast for $5 an hour, right? Okay,
sure.
And they're driving the roads and this and that, and okay, but they're not getting any benefit. The benefit is that $5 they can send $2 of that back to their family in whatever country. And their family, that $2 that they're sending back of every, they're working 10 hours, so that's $20 a day, 5 days a week, $100. Okay, so that $100 that they're sending back to their country to their home in Mexico or Nicaragua or whatever, allows their family in a way that they couldn't even be making $100 a week if they were there working, right?
Right, because that's one-sided though. How much of that $100 investment into that worker that farm or that corporation is getting? How much ROI off of that $100 is that farm getting?
We have numbers,
right? You have states like Nebraska who are literally going broke because they don't have any migrant left. We've seen it in Florida when DeSantis did it. DeSantis kicked out all of his immigrants, right? Or pretty much they did the whole roundup thing before Trump made it popular. And the Florida ecosystem almost collapsed because they lost. I think they reported 65% of their orange crops alone that they weren't able to pick. They were just sitting there because they had nobody to pick them. So when we talk about what's the cost now, it cost us $100, and out of that $100, they're sending 50 of it back to wherever the hell, right? But these corporations are making hand over foot off of that But here's the thing: it's always the lowest common denominator, and that's why I said it's always it's as American pie, because the rich get richer, and it always comes back to blaming the low man, right? And that's the low man on the totem pole,
right? And that's where I'm saying there's ways to fix it, right? I don't have a problem with somebody wanting to come here. I think we need to fix the system. I have no problem with what used to be in place, which was a migrant card. You used to have people, migrant workers. Let's just keep it simple and use two countries. Let's just use Mexico and California, right?
Sure.
So in the spring, you would have tens of thousands of migrant workers from Mexico come up into California, start picking the crops. They'd be picking the lettuce. They'd be picking the avocados. They'd be picking whatever, strawberries, blah, 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 through 6 months. So from March, April, all the way through to about September. At the end of September, what they do? They went home. Cool. There you go. I'm fine with that system. If it's a card that says you come in and you're able to work, and I have that card, I have a 6 months, I'm going home, I'm not coming in with my family, I'm not bringing my kids up and putting them in the system. If they get hurt and they need to go to the hospital, I think, yes, you still need to provide emergency care and all that stuff. Okay. But that's the difference is we've changed.
We've done that
and we've
before,
gotten, but that's not how it is now. It did work.
No,
It worked for decades.
No,
the card?
No,
Oh,
no,
the
no.
card, is
Because
that what
if
you
you go
said?
back,
Oh.
well, you go back and you look at the sharecropping system, right? After slavery, we tried that whole. We'll come in and work. And
Sharecropping is very different, though.
Here's how it's not different, right? Because the arrangement was simple. Hey, you come in, you work the fields, we'll pay you a portion of it, whatever, sands, equipment, or whatever rentals, right? But without the protection, and this is where you get into that slippery slope. Without the federal protection, you have organizations like the KKK, the white supremacists or whatever. As those workers were coming into work and leaving, they kept disappearing and they ended up hanging in trees. We've seen this work. We've seen this process before. That federal protection is important.
Fair, but it wasn't in the widespread numbers that it was shutting down the whole. The bigger problem with the sharecroppers was basically what you had kind of with like the mining towns, right? So you had the people that want to go in and they want to work these fields, and you would come in and say, okay, well, I'm going to work this field because the owner has this land and you're supposed to give me 50% of the pay. But then they'd come in and say, okay, well, where's my 50% of the crop? And they say, well, yeah, we sold it for $1,000. You're supposed to give 500, but well, you used my tools and there's 50. And while you were living on the land, you ate this food, and it became a corporate town. And that was, you didn't have that with the migrants in the same way. And what I'm saying,
enforcement though, what I'm saying is the enforcement is the same, because when the African Americans would have their disagreement, say, well, no, this is what the contract says, this is what the papers I had.
Yeah, nobody,
and
right?
They would use the local authorities to come in and kidnap and harm those African Americans. So that's what I'm saying. I see what you're saying. The reason why people are saying, hey, this is a bad idea, this is a slippery slope, is because we've tried that before. We tried the whole freedom papers thing, right? We tried that. Hey, as long as you got your papers, you can move freely throughout the country. Make sure you have your papers. I mean,
I just think, okay,
it's uncomfortable to tie it back, but at the essence of it all is, it's the bottom line is, none of it matters if you don't have the federal enforcement. If the federal and local authorities are working against you, it doesn't matter what papers you have, because when those African Americans had their freedom papers, those papers would get ripped up by those same authorities and sent right back to the field. So.
But it is so difficult to me to compare what happens in 2025 with what happened in 1955, right? Or 1945 or 35, right? And that's where I look at it and say, because you have the technology, you have instant reporting, you have people coming out and you have intimidation, but you have intimidation both ways too. Like you have for every boss. What was his name? What was the sheriff's name in Alabama that turned on the fire hydrants? Boss. It's not Boss Hogg.
No.
He was on the Dukes of Hazzard.
No. I can't remember his name, but I know what you're talking about. Was it the sheriff? No, it was the sheriff, and then you had the governor who was
right. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, I think today, because you have cell phones and because you have instant communication, we're just not in the same situation. Like I wanted to compare what you said about the you compared the LA riots to the civil rights marches that were going on in the South. Right?
No.
Oh, that wasn't you?
Those are two totally different things.
It's somebody else. Somebody else was making that comparison. I thought, and I apologize if it was you. Yeah. Thad, I'd like to see some proof on that, but because people go disappearing both sides all the time, whistleblowers against the government and etc. Bull Connor. There you go.
That's it.
Boss. I said boss instead of bull. Yeah, that's what threw it off. Yeah. So okay, so. I've seen this argument then, and I apologize that it wasn't you, that what's going on in the marches in Los Angeles is like what's going on in the South. And I think that is one of the most lazy, ridiculous comparisons, because what's going on in Los Angeles is a level of violence, a level of coordinated attacks, where the civil rights was, hey, you know what? We are going to join arms and we are going to very, very specifically not be violent. We are not going to attack the police. We are not going to go against. We are going to passively resist.
But
where what's going on?
The results were the same.
So
when you passively resist, here's the thing though. People like to skim over. When you passively resist, right? Because the civil rights movement led by Dr. King was all about nonviolence. We're gonna exercise our right to peacefully protest, yada yada yada. And they got dog sicked on them. They got hoses turned on them. They got beaten across the head with nightsticks. The results are the same. So whether it's not a matter of whether you're protesting peacefully or angrily or however, what matters is what is the administration going to allow? Because the civil rights movement did not change until the Kennedys were starting to push it that way, and then Lyndon Johnson got put in a foxhole to where he was like, well, shit, if I don't do it,
I can't win.
You know what I'm saying? So let me go ahead and sign it. So it's not a matter of peaceful protest or non-peaceful protest. It's a matter of what does the administration, how does that affect the administration?
So, but you're going in and you're doing these raids in Los Angeles that everybody knows are coming, right? They've said, look, you come report yourself. We'll give you $1,000 and a plane ticket to go home. Sure. So this is a very opportunistic way to leave the country. This is not, and that I'm not saying that people don't die and get killed. I'm curious, like what was the. You're saying a cop killed these two guys. Shocking, there are dirty cops out there. Who knew? But in the LA, what's going on in LA is you have these guys going out and they're breaking up the bollards so they have rocks to throw at the police, and they are going in and they are surrounding and breaking. Like one of the things one of my friends said, "Oh, it's about to get real. It's about to get real in LA." But then I read a really interesting article that I thought was really insightful, because it said the protesters and the local police are basically on the same side, taking their cues from the same groups. So the higher up, let's say the mayor of Los Angeles, who is a communist, like she's an actual communist, she is telling the police, look, we need to show that we're in charge of our city. Just not too hard. But we support the protesters. Just don't hurt the cops. So there's this kind of balance between the violence of the LAPD and violence of the protesters. And hey, as long as nobody really gets out of hand, we can make this happen.
That's ultimately how protests are supposed to work. It's right. Like, hey, I want to protect your constitutional right to protest. At the same time, I, as the chief administrator of the city, I'm letting the police force know, hey man, you have the authority to do what you have to do, but use restraint. Use ROE if you will, right?
Yes.
Use ROE. Yes. So in that regard, that now, administratively, that's the right way to do it.
But here's the wild card. Now you have Trump and the federal coming in going, we're enforcing the law. We're going to do it. Hey, we've been saying we're going to do it.
That was bullshit.
That was
absolute bullshit.
I don't think it was. What's funny about this is I can't tell you how many memes I've seen that and I'm all about, hey, you want to go protest as long as there's no destruction. And again, as a libertarian, your rights stop where mine begin, right? Did you see that video of the two white people who were blocking traffic, and the black mom's like, hey, I need to get to work. I need to provide. And they start laughing. You want to go to work, ah? And it's like, you absolute idiots. You're these two leftist white people, and you're stopping a person of color who wants to go provide for their family. Do you realize how stupid this looks? Look, I think if you block a freeway, I'm with DeSantis. You block a freeway, you get run over. I think if you're a motorist, You should be able to drive down the street.
If
You
you're-
drive down the street and somebody jumps in front of your car and you hit them, you should. In fact, the person who gets hit, your insurance should cover my car damage.
If you are out protesting without the proper permits, and that's the nuance, right?
I don't even
If you-
care permits.
No,
Go down
here's my thing.
stay on the sidewalk and
No,
so be it.
No.
Do you think you need a permit? Do you think you should need a permit to protest?
I don't think you need a permit to protest. I also don't think you need a permit to hunt, fish, or drive or anything.
Agreed.
Else, but laws are what they are, right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you register your protest, and say, hey, we are protesting, we will be in this street during these hours. These are the way we're protesting. And a vehicle comes down and harms you, then at that point, the protesters are in the right of way. But if you just decide to be a bunch of dummies who decide to get on the freeway on a Tuesday and protest because you're pissed off, then the person driving the vehicle has every right to tell you to get the hell off the street because you're not supposed to be there, right? There's a common sense way that both can happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's not an
Yep.
either or. There's a common sense way. Like a lot of people like to go back and they like to pick and choose what to do in the 60s. One thing that the marchers and the organizers of the 1960 civil rights movement was prolific at is using the law to their advantage, right? So when those policemen would stop them from marching on the streets, they were violating the law.
Mm-hmm.
When those civilians were counter protesting and attacking those protesters from the 1960s, they were violating the law. What happens now is you got a bunch of idiots who are out on the street disorganized, and just because they're in their feelings, they want to decide they want to go sit in front of traffic and feel that they got a right of way, and they're wrong. So there's two ways that can be done. No, there aren't proper permits to walk on the street. You're absolutely right. The permit is to have a gathering or use a march. It's no different than if you wanted to go do a parade. If you got a permit to do a parade, you will be marching down the street. All right. So I guess my biggest gripe with those guys in LA is not necessarily the gripe in LA, because for the most part it's BLM all over again. You have those agitators who get in, and their sole purpose, regardless who hired them, their sole purpose is to cause disruption within a organization. We've seen that time and time again. It's been proven. The government has been known for the last 60, 70 years since COINTELPRO to insert agitators into peaceful organizations for the simple right to make it look like, those guys are bad. You good?
Yeah. Keep going.
Okay. So it would not surprise me, if those agitators were in there, right? Prime example, there were some veterans. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. There were veterans who broke the barricades at one of the government buildings in Washington, D.C. this week. Mm-hmm. And the difference between what they did and what the January 6ers did is they did a sit-in protest on the Capitol steps. Didn't go in, didn't do anything. They did a sit-in. Veterans did a sit-in on the Capitol steps to protest the use of veterans in the parade. Do I agree with it? No, but it was the right way to do it. So it was a coordinated protest across the country, Thad, and here's the difference. It was a protest across the country, but for the mass, for the problem with the protest and how things are running now is there's no organization, right? You can gather and you can have a protest if you decide to stay on the sidewalks, great. But what you cannot do, you cannot impede the flow of traffic if you do not have the permits. That's the difference. If you decide to stay on the sidewalks and you line every sidewalk in America with signs and whatever, you are well within your constitutional right. The minute you step in a public street and impede the traffic or impede the right of way of another civilian, you are in default.
Yeah.
Right.
And
because you don't have the proper permitting.
And that's where Liberty. Yeah. And that's where Liberty is saying there aren't permits to allow you to stop traffic. Yeah.
Right.
And so, and that's where, again, even permits and, like you said, laws are laws. Me personally, I think it's kind of, I know it's constitutional because the Supreme Court has said constitutional. Okay. I think it's unconstitutional when they set up these locations and say, hey, the president's going to be speaking here. So here's the beach area. You can go over here and you can protest however you want in this area. I don't agree with that. I personally think that, again, if it's in America, as long as you're not impeding somebody else's rights,
Right.
you should be able to protest. Now, again, there are limitations to that because, like, if you have Matt Walsh, let's say Matt Walsh is one of those conservative dudes, right? If Matt Walsh gets invited, if Matt Walsh gets invited to the University of Michigan, and he has these protesters popping up during his talk and shouting down, so he can't have his interactions. Yeah, kick him out. Out.
Sure.
That is not okay form of protesting. You want to be outside? Okay, hey, you know what? Go outside the building, do all that. But he and his team arranged with the university. They were invited there. They were brought on. It's kind of like when Crowder goes on, he gets the permits and he goes on to the University of Texas and he does my change of mind thing. And you have people out there shouting him down. Well, okay, guess what? They're in a public spot. So are you. So they can yell at Crowder if they want to. Sorry. Yeah. You want to be in somewhere that's a little more. You like that? Yes, of course. That is one of my favorite shirts. So that's the thing is when we're talking about these protests, I'm fine. I have stopped and talked to people running protests before, just to kind of. There've been some that I didn't know what they were. It's like, hey, dude, what are you protesting? Oh, we're striking against AT&T because they're not giving us a fair wage. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, leave. I've had ones. I had a guy. Now this wasn't a protest, but I went to a BYU TCU game, Texas Christian University up in Dallas. It was a football game. And this kid, I was probably, gosh, when were we there? That would have been 05, somewhere between 05 and 08, because that's when I was in stationed at that part of Texas. So we went up to the game, and this guy had a sign that said, Joseph Smith is still a liar. Something like that. Very inflammatory towards my religion. And I walked up to him and his friends, and I took out my military ID card. And I said, hey, guys, I just want to let you know I'm in the military, and I'm showing you this because I will absolutely defend your right to have that sign. That said, you as his friends should not let him make such an asshole of himself, because this makes him look like an absolute bigot towards me and my religion. You have the right to do it, but you shouldn't. That's all I said. And I walked away. You know, I shared what I thought. We are now though we're now in an environment that it would now be, hey, turn on your phone, watch this. And I walked over to that guy and said, hey, that sign, that's a total load of crap. You shouldn't have, and rip it away from him. Yeah. And now we're going to try to make that to go viral. Instead of having, now again, you could argue and say, well, you know, Chaplain, you didn't need to go over and even say that in the first place. It's like, you're right. But, you know, at the same time, I'm feeling like I need to go defend my faith and say that. You know, a little plug here this Friday. We teased this a couple weeks ago. I'm going to be debating Andrew Wilson. You may know Andrew Wilson from the Whatever podcast. He's the guy who is kind of always off, and he's got the cigarette, and he's always being really snarky to the girls. Oh, you're just an. Oh, wait, you think you're a 10? You know, that guy. Yeah. So it's pretty funny. Yeah. His podcast is Crucible. I'm going to be debating him, and here's this Friday. I think that's going to pop up.
There you go. Yep, you got it. Okay. Yeah, it just popped up.
Yeah, and so we'll go show. So there it goes. So this Friday, and I think I'm going to be. It's going to be moderated by a woman named. It's Sarah the Raging Tomato. That's her website, and we are going to broadcast it here at the same time. So if you want to watch that, simulcast it. Yeah. So this is the type of thing I'm talking about. Like, again, you have the right to say what you want to say. Now, there are limits in terms of you can't make threats, you can't yell movie in a crowded firehouse, things like that. There you go. That's an old Steve Martin joke. That joke's from the 70s. That's how old that joke is. Absolutely stolen from Steve Martin. But you know, like you and I have talked about this. Should I have the right to say the N-word? Yes. Yeah. Now, should I expect certain consequences if I use the N-word in certain contexts? Yes, as well. You and I, a couple years ago, we were talking. I told you a story about when I was 8 years old and using the N-word. And I said, hey, you know, if I tell this story, what do you think? And you said, you know what? I'm going to give you a pass to, because it adds, it makes the story much more visceral.
Yeah.
And so in that situation, I used the N-word only because KJ, as a representative of all black people in this country, as we've talked about previously, said that I should be able to. Right. But then you see these videos, like one of my favorite videos is that the video where the white guy keeps saying to the, you know, hey, you and it's in the convenience store and the guy hits him with the, what is it, the crazy...
The iced tea.
The iced tea.
Yeah.
Boom!
Yeah.
And I sit there and I go, okay, by law, the black guy probably should be arrested for assault. But by common sense, that white dude had it coming.
Yeah.
So, Twisted Tea. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm glad Thad's on tonight because we keep hitting roadblocks and Thad's like, I gotcha.
He's working producer. I got to
Moscow on the Hudson.
Something for his production credit today. He is
tell you what,
right now.
Tell you what, Thad, we are going to give you every penny we earn from today's broadcast. You can look for about 2 cents 2 cents coming to your Venmo. But let's see. What about the contest of singing hip hop?
I'll bring it back up
with the N-word in it. Oh, argument military. I had a group of soldiers who they were coming into for a whole nother conversation. And we were talking, and because I'm a chaplain, and a lot of the people I dealt with were in trouble because of SHARP and EO. SHARP is sexual harassment and rape prevention. EO is equal opportunity, right? And so I was saying, look, if you guys need to go report somebody for SHARP or EO, you should absolutely do it. But let's make sure that you're not weaponizing these things, okay? Because if you get hit with an investigation in AIT, I know kids that were there for over a year for an investigation on things that were stupid, right? And I said, for example, and this is right to Brady's point, let's say I call KJ the N-word. Is that an EO complaint? Raise your hand and everybody's hands went up, right? Now KJ is an NCO in the front row, you know, and I said, okay, so what about if I'm in my barracks room and you're walking by and you hear me say the N-word? Is that an EO complaint? And they kind of, about half the hands kind of went up and yeah. I said, okay. So let's say now you come into my room and I'm at my desk and I have my headphones on and I'm just singing along with Jay-Z. Is that an EO complaint? And everybody kind of went, oh, no, probably not. I said, okay. And then this is what got me in trouble. Apparently, this is what got at least part of the complaint was I said, but let's be real, I would probably be listening to Eminem. So somebody actually twisted that. And when the NCO actually went and complained to my command that I had said this. Which the whole thing I was telling these guys was keep it at the lowest level. Like if you had a problem with what I said, come and talk to me. If you have a problem with another soldier, go and talk to them. So when you're talking about these things, all right. I got to have Liberty. Liberty just said that. Yeah, there you go. So I refuse. Liberty, I will have you know that I am old enough that the first rappers that I got into were NWA. Because my best friend in the late 80s, his dad had brought him up from Compton. His dad, my buddy Eric, his dad Douglas wanted to get them out of LA with all the stuff that was going on in big, a lot of the gangs and the drugs. So he brought him up to Salt Lake. He was in my school. We became very, very good friends. And I had the car and he didn't. So we drive around and he would pop in NWA. I can sing. I'm trying to remember what it was from America's Most Wanted, Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted, the nursery rhyme, the ghetto nursery rhyme. Boys and girls, they all love me. Come sit on the lap of Icy and let me tell you a story or two about a punk nigga named Jack. Wasn't that nimble? Wasn't that shit? Anyway, I think I might have actually missed which word I was supposed to. I was listening to NWA. I'm glad. Yeah. So that was who I used to listen. I'm not a big fan of rap now. I do like some Eminem here and there, but I tell you what, the rappers I like are the ones that I can understand what they're saying. So most of the rappers, if I can't understand what they're saying, like Snoop, hey, it's real easy to listen to Snoop because you hear exactly what he's saying. He's very mellow. But again, back to the N-word. Don't use the N-word, boys and girls, if you don't want to get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, man. So we can't sing NWA on the show.
Well, not certain parts of it, at least.
Clearly, yeah. So I mean, it's all context matters, right? As America continues to intertwine and our cultures continue to be, one of many, right?
Diversified.
It's a melting pot for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Those words don't hold the weight in certain contexts. Like you still have some traditionalists who like to throw that N word around in an offensive manner. Right?
Yeah.
But
Hard R. Hard R people.
You talk to most Gen Alphas right now. It's so ingrained in music and hip hop. It's like, in this, in that, and I'm like, bro. I was like, come here.
The middle school. I was in. So for the last week, I finally got approval to get into the school as part of the retirement plan. I was in a middle school. At hall, they ended up putting me just as a hall monitor. Oh my gosh, the language of these, and I was in the 6th grade. The 8th graders weren't too bad. The 6th graders were the ones who were some of the stuff they were saying.
Here's the nuance though. And Thad, back me up as a writer. The beauty, the reason why I got into writing is because I love language and the way language transforms, right? Mm-hmm. When you hear these Gen A's use that word, they use it as a term of brotherhood. Like for them, it's like, my so-and-so, my so-and-so. It never clicked in their mind that this was a negative connotation. You know what I'm saying? White, black, blue, purple. If you're in Gen A, you know what I'm saying, and I grew up, it's all, man, that's my, and you be like, bro, hey, come on, young man, let me holler at you. I hear what you're saying, and I know what you're saying, but let me talk to you. You know what I'm saying? But that word has evolved. But what you're gonna have, and that's why racism is so fickle, right? Because the English language is evolving to a point to where that word doesn't mean what you think it means, right? So people in our generation, when we hear that N word, it is still inherently offensive.
It's hard. Right? It's hard R almost all the time. Yeah.
But
the reaction is hard R.
Right. But for Gen Alpha, it's like, yo, bro, that's my brother.
That's my boy. Yeah.
That's my partner. That's my we you know what I'm saying? Him and I are the same. We both N words. You be like, you should probably go holler at your granddad. Let him teach you a little something. You know what I'm saying? But that's why I love the beauty of the language. And I think in a generation or two, that word, as we continue to come, and that's where we have that set of idealists who want to hold on to those traditional values, right? They want to be able to use, you know what I'm saying? They want to be able to say, okay, well, that's that's N-word. I give you another example, right? When the last time have you ever heard somebody call a white person hunky or something like that, right? It culturally, it died off. You know what I'm saying? And eventually the N-word will do the same. With Gen A, when Gen A starts having kids, they're going to be. So here's my question, Liberty. why would you want to say it?
Well, he's just singing. He's saying that he's just singing a
That's what I'm
song.
saying. Yeah, if he was
Context.
singing a song, if he was singing a song and in context, then you know what I'm saying. Hey, it's
Well, KJ, let me.
Prime example. If you were in a church, right? If you were in a church, we all curse.
Oh, yeah.
Right? If you were in a church, right?
I think I know where you're going to go.
Yeah, as foul as my mouth is, do you think the parishioners in that church will be okay with me getting on the mic? I want to give glory to MNF and God and that SOB, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Context matters.
Jesus is the effing best.
You get what I'm saying? So yes. Yeah, some things you can say what you want to say, but you got to understand.
Right. But I think that in this situation that Liberty's pointing out, it's kind of like a couple years ago there was a very similar thing where one of the black rappers pulled up a kid out of the audience and was having them sing along, and then when the kids sang the words along, the whole crowd started booing him, and the rapper turned on him like, "How dare you?" It's like, you pulled this white kid out of the crowd to start singing along with you. What do you expect?
Well, again, context.
I mean,
matters, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, I get pulled up to sing with Ice Cube. I'm self-censoring regardless.
You have to have that. You have to have that.
But what you just said though, Gen A, that's very different though, right? Yeah. So there are some. I remember the story back in the day when Marion Barry was the mayor of Washington, the comeback kid himself. But one of his aides got fired because they were talking about the budget, right? And he said, hey, the governor is very niggardly when it comes to the budget, and he's very aware. The dude had to resign. The word niggardly means to be miserly or carefully, to deal carefully with money. Niggardly. It has nothing to do with the N-word of derogatory fame. And that's where, now, I don't think you would necessarily get that today. But at the same time, like Liberty points out, you have a kid that could potentially lose a scholarship for saying the N-word. But if he's singing...
Necessary? Was that word necessary in that press conference? Was the word niggardly necessary in that press conference? The beauty
but what did you just say? You just said the words matter, right? He's using the right word.
Right word, wrong audience.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean,
if you're in a corporate environment, right? If you're in a corporate environment, right? And you go in there and you
Liberty's arguing drop of blood. that's old school. That's Civil War level of arguments.
It's one of those things, right? You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, Liberty. I appreciate what you wrote there.
Yeah, it truly is right word, wrong audience, right?
Yeah.
You if I am on the campus of an HBCU, you know what I'm saying, and I am a Caucasian guy.
Yeah.
No matter how much I am ingrained into the society or the system, I have to be aware of my surroundings and understand that not everybody is accepting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but this guy was talking in a budget meeting to reporters who thought, I'm going to use the proper word here when it comes to governmental funds.
Yeah, right word, wrong audience.
Well, that means there's no ever right audience for that word then. Is that the argument?
Well, I mean,
it's up to you.
It really is. It's you have to be aware that I can use the exact right word, right?
Oh, sure.
So
it can just
right.
Go with it.
Wait.
Oh,
if a female exchanges money for sex, right? If a man exchanges money with a female for sex, right? We have so many words. Yeah, we have so many words that we can use for that, right?
Yes.
But in context, we're not allowed to use those words in certain spaces, right?
Such as?
Huh?
Like what?
So
you can't use prostitute. What, in church? It's in the Bible.
Yeah, of course it's in the Bible, but that doesn't mean you could be up there talking about, so I was with a prostitute last night and we had a great time.
Oh, so if you're in church and you say I was with a lady of the night, that's going to go over better.
It's not going to. What I'm saying, it's the right word, wrong audience.
I don't think it's ever the right time to be announcing that you were with a prostitute in church. I don't know where you.
I'm saying it's right word, wrong audience. There's nothing wrong with
But
it.
it's never the right audience to be saying that.
Well, again, when is the right time to use the word "in" with a hard R? When is the right time?
I do have a question for this then. Okay. This is a very legitimate question that I would like answered.
Yeah.
You're in a high school history class.
Yep. Oh, that's a great question. Great question.
Okay. And you are quoting. Do you, as a white school teacher, do you quote Malcolm X? Do you censor yourself, or do you have one of the black students say it?
Great question. Great question. And the answer
because I'm not saying it I'm not, as a history teacher, my point is to say Malcolm X or Frederick Douglass or I don't think Martin Luther King, I'm pretty sure he avoided, I think he really did not like the word.
At least not in public. At least not in public.
Oh, yeah. I guess in some of the tapes.
There's some FBI tapes where
some of the tapes. But he was
where the reverend let loose.
Yeah. In public he was also very loyal to his wife. But yeah, so that even going back to the book banning stuff of To Kill a Mockingbird or Huck Finn. Like the one of the things about Huck Finn that drives me bonkers about Huck Finn and the N-word is that one of the things that Mark Twain does in Huck Finn is that I guess you could do that, but then you still have
that is still wrong because now you're violating district policy. And I'm with Liberty. That is absolutely absurd. I agree with you.
So one of the most important parts of the book of Huckleberry Finn is that Huck, at the beginning of the journey, continually refers to Jim as N-word Jim. N-word. There you go. Thank you. N-word Jim. I'm still going to say it like that, right? By the end of the book, what is he calling him?
He called him my friend. He called him Jim.
Just started calling him Jim. Yeah. It was just Jim. This is Jim. That was the new. That's like the central theme of the book.
The growth
of this young man. Yes, but to say now you can't even read this book in school because it has this magic word in it that kids can't handle reading it. But what did you just say, KJ? You walk down any school and you see two young black men together in military school, whatever, and they have no problem calling themselves.
The cool thing about it is, the cool things about it is I've seen a group of Caucasian men calling each other the N-word, and I'm just sitting back like, all right, this is bizarre world.
That's a little bridge too far.
But then again, these are 19-year-old,
I see what you're saying.
Hip-hop heads.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, bro, y'all
Yeah.
good? Oh yeah, we straight. Don't trip, man. We don't mean it like that. It's different. Hold tight.
Okay.
Let me teach you the nuance of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm gonna let you know. I hear you, but everybody might not be as welcoming and accepting of that.
Especially, well, okay. So let me ask you this, KJ, then about that specific information or situation. Was your advice, guys? It's probably not okay for you guys to be using that word because you're white in general. B, you should probably only use that when you're in private between yourselves and you know it's okay. What's your advice to those two? Because my advice and your advice, I don't know if it's the same.
Yeah, no. So my advice was be aware of your surroundings. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If you're comfortable using that word, understand not everyone is going to be accepting of you using that word. That's it. I'm just giving you awareness. Like, the word itself holds no weight for me. You know what I'm saying? But again, it holds
weight for me if I say
exactly. What I'm saying is the personal views vary.
Yeah.
From person to person, right? Another black person could come down the street, could have came down that street, heard them young white men saying it, and it could have been a whole different, a whole different fiasco.
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? And there's no right or wrong to it, because that's the cause and the effect of that word being in our vernacular.
Well, and that's the funny thing is, to me, because those two young men, I would have said, dude, even when you two are in private, you need to come up with a better word than that. It's just because you start falling in that habit, and it just
comes out.
Yeah, it comes out, and it's there's certain words that are just. Do you remember the South Park episode where they set the record for curse words? And it was the word shit. It was shit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And the joke was, by the end, it was a curse word, a curse meaning to put a magic curse, or it would cause a curse of evil. And so actually, it released Satan and it released the demons because it was a curse word.
Right.
And so there are certain words that are just not generally acceptable. And of course, it depends on where you are. Like the C word in America, you don't call a woman a C word in America. But in England, that's kind of like just a common. Yeah, it's just, right?
To your point about curse words, right? You don't curse everywhere, right?
Right, for sure.
Even though it's generally accepted, you don't curse everywhere. There's just some places where I can't use these words, right? To me, the N word is no different than a curse word. You just don't use it everywhere, right? Oh, you took it down. Hold on.
Oh, I took it down. Hey, so Liberty, you make a great point. I saw a comedian talk about this, and he said, I find it really interesting that this was a couple years ago. There was a debate about the song Baby It's Cold Outside, which is a Christmas song. And if you know that song, hey, I really can't.
That's like saying Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Yeah.
Baby song, it's kind of a Christmassy song. Hey, come on, stay, baby. Hey, why don't we, come on, we're comfortable by the fire. You don't really, it's cold outside. And it got turned into, the feminist movement said, hey, this is a rape song, right? Yeah. Meanwhile, and then he went from that and said, here's the lyrics to the number one song in America right now by whoever say the Stallion, whatever her name is.
Meg the Stallion.
Yeah, Megan the Stallion. And he started reading the lyrics.
I love that video. Yeah, I love that video. Yeah,
to WAP. And it was like the disconnect between this lighthearted, hey, you know what? I think you're sweet. I think we should stay together. I kind of dig you, girl. Hey, any excuse to have you stay a little bit longer, I'd really appreciate it, because hey, I think you're cute and I think we have something going. And that's somehow a rape culture where wet ass P word. See, I don't even, again, context, and most people, but my kids might watch this, so I try not to swear too much. Dirty. Like my kids, they run around saying, the dog farted. I'm like, no, they tooted. Let's not be crude or fluffy for the bluey crowd. Fluffy.
I don't curse in front of my mother. I'm a 40-something-year-old man, and I refuse to because it's context.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever sworn in front of my mom.
I cannot bring myself to curse in front of my mother.
I can tell you the first time I ever swore at my dad, though, because I bolted as soon as I did it. I dropped the F-bomb and I was out the door.
Right?
I was at the bottom of the stairs when I said it, and I said it, and I immediately vamoosed. I was gone for 2 hours before I was out for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Hours before I deigned to, and I tell you, my dad, like a trooper, didn't say anything about it. Basically said, "You're not going to do that again, are you?" And that was it. And I was like, "Nope, I don't think I ever swore at my dad again."
Liberty, my thing.
With music is, they sing along with it. Yeah.
But again, we can't pretend like that. Yeah, we can't pretend like this is new. This is.
Yeah.
Hell, man, I know I was coming up in the South in the 90s. 2 Live Crew. Are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh my gosh. So I will I brought this up.
Who am I to sit back and say now as a 40-year-old man, those lyrics, those young men. And it's the same thing with jazz. When jazz kind of took over in the early 20th century, everybody was like, "Oh, it's devil's music. It's making women want to gyrate, this, that, and the other." You get what I'm saying? Like, this is nothing new. This is society. Society is what it is. We've always been raunchy. It's just it's never been as prevalent or in our face. Yeah, well,
yes, and that was the point I was just about to make.
Well, I disagree.
There was a Madonna.
I could play some blues songs. Hold on, I could play some blues songs for you from the 1920s that were, if not as raunchy as WAP, it's pretty damn close. I mean, you had Madonna. She almost got hung at the stake.
That's who I was just about to say. Yeah, I was listening to, and I do not like Madonna. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a fan of Madonna at all. And I got stuck on somehow. I was flipping the channels, and I think it's where I was. It was the only station that I could that came in, and I started listening to the lyrics, and it might have been borderline. I think is. But whatever song it was, I started listening to it, and I was like, this whole song is about having sex. It had never dawned on me. I didn't, because I don't really listen, but the whole, give me all of your, borderline, whatever the song was, and I was just listening to it going, oh my gosh. And then my hairdresser, she was talking about like Harper County PTA. Now, I'm not a country guy. I barely know the song. But I guess, because she was telling me the song is about, she's there at the PTA meeting, and they're dressing her down for her, how she's not a good parent or something. But then she's repeating back to them that their husbands are out cheating on them on the weekend. So she's throwing she's throwing the shade right back. So so some of the songs and all that stuff, I get it. But at the same time, again, I think there is, unfortunately, a loosening of the language, that words pretty much go. And you don't... I've made this argument a few times. It was the wrong messenger. Now, it was the wrong messenger, but it was the right message. And it was Bill Cosby in the late 90s basically said, look, as the black community, we need to have our kids pulling their pants up, being respectful, and speaking proper English. And he just got killed by the black community, right, for saying that. And now you look at, and it doesn't matter if it's the black community or the white community or whatever, we have let pretty much all of our standards go. In lots. Oh, you don't think so?
I'll give you a point. It's more. There's a line of liberation, and then there is a line of, and I hate to use that word, but it is a line of, but that machoism, right? You think back in the 60s, Marilyn Monroe wasn't beloved because she was modest. Marilyn Monroe was not loved because she was a conservative. Prostitution, if people were staunch supporters of modesty, prostitution would have died a long time ago. People don't go to strip clubs because women are modest, right?
True.
There is a level.
I don't think so. I don't go to strip clubs, so I'll take your word for it.
But what I'm saying is there is a level of people love sex, and there's nothing wrong with that, right?
So KJ, I'm not only talking. I'm talking more like what Liberty is putting here. It's not just about the moral issue. The English language has degraded. Math. I saw something that was really interesting. It was talking about math, how over the last century we went from, it was a math program, a math problem. And it said, it was like a square, and then it had a couple of things cut out of it. And it said, define the area in this. And then it was a show what the area of this and this is. And then it was, what's this rectangle? And then, so basically it was a degradation of actually having to critically think what this math problem was to figure out the area of the space, all the way down to, it's now A, B, C, or D. You don't even have to, you just have you can guess, and they've dumbed it down so much that if you don't get this right, you're really, I mean, functionally retarded. Well, heck, even that, functionally retarded. You're not even supposed to say retarded anymore, even though that's the correct word. Like, to me, that is the correct word, right?
Right word, wrong copy.
Yeah. Well, it can be the right. Well, it's it's not, but that's, again, functionally retarded means you are not able to function at an appropriate level within the society, right? And that's very different than me saying, "Oh, you're just a giant retard." But in the 80s, you and I grew up when it was like, "Oh, dude, just stop being gay. Stop being so gay," or "That's so gay." It didn't have anything to do with homosexuality. "Oh man, stop being a fag." "Oh, you're just stop being a gay fag." It's like, dude, that had nothing to do with homosexuality.
In the 60s, well, in the 20s, telling somebody you were gonna give them some straight dick was to say, "I'm giving you straight talk," right? If you
I haven't heard that one. That's a new one for me, huh?
I actually learned it in a Superman comic.
Oh yeah.
But the point I'm making is,
you think anybody named Richard right now is getting nicknamed Dick?
Right, absolutely not. But again, that's what I'm saying. It evolves. Liberty, to your point about standard English, we never required standard English. If that was the case, we'd be talking the Queen's English. We've always had. Think
you are correct. We should return to the proper way.
A different dialect of English, and that doesn't.
Yeah.
Grammar rules are what they are. It's societal, right? We just allow it to.
But and we're going to talk about this in sometime coming up. There's one of hopefully our guests, if our guests ever start showing up. I think we've had 5 scheduled. We're batting 400 right now, which is great for baseball, not so much for podcasts.
Yeah.
But she wants to talk, and she's a school teacher, and the book is called. She wants to really discuss anti-intellectualism in America. And I actually read the book. I thought it was interesting because the book places the degradation of education in America in a lot of different places, and intellectualism not just in one place. So
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm
so it was a good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, like I said, if she shows up. So Liberty. I mean, right now, I asked a kid, "What does finna mean?" Now I know how they use finna in context. I'm finna go to, and I was like, "Where does that come from?" Like I'm fixing to. I'm going to. I guess I'm fixing to, and it turned into that's I'm going to. I'm finna go get some food. Yeah.
It just kept getting going. I mean, but
When
you look back over the evolution of language, right? So you had the northern states who were always considered, the English standard, and you had the southern half of the country that was considered, in essence, country bumpkins, right? So that's where you had that country slang, that vernacular, and it just all blended together. You're not, because the standard of English has always been what society allows. You know what I'm saying? For a very long time, they even tried to coin the phrase ebonics for a while, right? And that was the big thing. Oh, ebonics, until it became culturally relevant, and then everybody was like, okay, well, cool.
Okay. So this is what I saw. This is what I saw in the junior high school. That was the prompt at end of the year up on a poster board. Let me put it back up. You got it? I'm going to put it back up first. Okay. And, dude, you keep popping the next one up.
No, I won't. Go ahead. I'm putting it back up. Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson be like. This was in the 8th grade hallway. And I said to one of the other teachers, I was like, we're in a school. Is this really what should be? And the argument was, well, you gotta meet them where they are. So Liberty, I'm with you. I think that when you're in the school environment, we should be making corrections to language. However, we're also in an environment where if a child, especially in socioeconomic challenged areas, were to say something like, let's say it made a correction. Okay, there's I got lots of I've got many dirt. I've got many dirt in my hand, and somebody go, dude, that's not how you say it. You say lots. If you can't count it, it's lots, and if it's you can count, it's many. You got many jelly beans. You know how hard that kid would get teased for making the proper correction?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Weird Al did that entire song about grammatical errors, and it was a big hit because people of our generation say we understand some of those, but you have people who don't know the difference between there, and there. They literally do not have the right conjunctions. They don't know the right words. They don't know verbs, adverbs. And that's where I'm saying the degradation of the country and of the education system. I think if something's going to really end America, it's probably that, because idiocracy is the ultimate end game for us.
Yeah, education overall. But I wanted to Liberty's point. Yeah, we sure we can, but right, we don't hold as an employer. As an employer, you can say, oh well, yeah, well, if someone's not speaking proper English, you know, this, that, and the other, right? So would you take a Harvard graduate from Boston who uses the word wicked? Would you look at them different if they say, oh, I got a wicked, a wicked born or whatever? Oh, I had a wicked weekend, right? So those dialects, when we do those things like that, that tends to lean heavier toward disenfranchised minorities, right? I remember in the early 90s, they had this thing out west called Valley slang, right? Where the
Valley Girls. Valley Girls. Oh, yeah. Right. Gag me with a spoon. There was a whole song on it. Yeah. Absolutely horrible English. Frank Zappa. Yep. Right.
But that was not considered improper, nor was that considered, a lack of ignorance. That was just a cultural deviant from what standard English is. So what I'm saying is when we do things like that, we got to be cognizant of where that all coming from, right? We got to be cognizant of where's that coming from, right? So yeah. And then even in your conversations, Liberty, daily, you don't speak, or at least I will tell you 99.98% of the American population does not speak anywhere close to a proficient level of proper English in their day-to-day conversations. There is probably
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on what, like you and I though, like during our conversation, what percentage would you say during an average podcast, what level of English proficiency do we use? Because I'd like to think we're pretty high.
Probably anywhere, I'd say 60-70%, maybe.
So what you're saying is I'm at 100% and you're at 30%, and you're just absolutely killing the average. That's what I'm hearing.
Probably. That's my Southern twang, man. I will never apologize. Never apologize for my Southern twang.
But I mean, do I wish we all sounded like Winchester on MASH? Yes, the guy had an awesome accent, and his accent was fake. That's not what the guy really sounded like. Yeah. I think that Liberty. I get your point, and tell me if I'm wrong. But I think Liberty. I think what Liberty is saying is, if we don't correct kids in real world, like for a job interview, it hurts them because they are unable to then speak in a way that makes them sound intelligent, and it makes them sound like they are going to be able to communicate well and proficiently. But unfortunately, it might be the exact opposite. It might be to the point where 20 years from now, we're speaking proper English, and a 20-year-old is going, what are you even saying? Like, I don't get what you're saying. And where I'm coming from is that as a society, we're degrading in almost every way.
I agree.
Way we can imagine outside of roof, because we all have a car, we all have a TV, we all have air conditioning, we all have an iPad, we all have a cell phone. So our ease of life is increasing, where our ability to cognitively communicate and think and critically use our brains in ways that will better us as a society are going down, in part because of that technology as well. What's the old joke? We've all seen that meme where our teacher said we had to learn math because we're not always going to walk around with a calculator in our pocket. Yeah. Well, she's right. We don't walk around with a calculator in our pocket. We walk around with a frickin' computer in our pocket.
Yeah.
And that is something that unfortunately could have some very long-term effects, or it could be, depending on how the programming goes, it could be the greatest thing in the history of human advancement, right, to the degree that we all basically become the best level of fat Wall-E people, without destroying the planet, and everything is super easy, and AI is able to figure out cancer is able to be destroyed by this, and using AI, I'm able to create a genetic a shot that you can take that will genetically make you not go blind from glaucoma. It will eradicate it'll get rid of the common cold. It will make it where essentially food production is all done by robots, and you can live. And instead of dystopian, it's going to be a utopian, because dystopian sells. Blade Runner, right? Everybody, oh, Blade Runner's great. Even some of the what was the one where Matt Damon, Elysium, I think it was, where they were on the Earth and it was kind of falling apart, but then up in space there was the ring, and Jodie Foster was the governor, and it was utopian. Who's to say that where we're at now, we don't end up in a utopian society in 100 years? I think that's definitely possible. That not just that it becomes Elysium becomes the norm for everybody. I personally think that is the more likely outcome. I don't think 1984 is the more likely outcome. I think that Brave New World is the more likely outcome, where anybody who wants to be plugged in and take the happy drugs and sit in front of the screen and just be taken care of, they can do that. And those who don't, those who want to live off the grid, and those who want to go out and live on the reservation and be left alone and not in the cities. And I know that that's not the real whole thing of Brave New World, but I think that's ultimately where we will be in 100 years. Those who want to participate in the society in a let the machines take care of me, and I want to kick back, and I want to be entertained, and I want to just live my life however I want on my floating chair, and I'm happy being out in the sun. There are going to be those, and there are going to be those people who are Marines and go, I like to. The more it sucks, the more I like it. So I'm going to go live off the grid, and I'm going to live in a cabin and dig my own poop hole and collect water every day, and that's how I'm going to live. And you know what? If that's the case, I think you're going to have a lot of happy people on both sides.
Yep. I am in more of the belief that idiocracy is our future, unless we culturally change something. Like there needs to be a revolution back toward intelligence and rewarding the best of us. Right now, we reward the worst of us, and that's kind of what's sparking the downward trend of society. But
do you think AI can pull us out of idiocracy?
It could.
That's my thought. Yeah.
The potential is there for us to become an enlightened species.
Yeah.
However, just like with the first computer, the first thing somebody looked up was porn. You know what I'm saying? It's human nature is what it is. You know what I mean?
Is that true?
Yeah.
All right.
Human nature is what it is. But yeah.
I'm gonna post the link one more time. Next Friday, show. Okay, there's the link. Again, we're gonna double tap the broadcast. Next Friday, 9:15. I will be taking on Andrew from the Crucible. Oh, I didn't tell you what the prompt is. Was Joseph Smith a false prophet? Being a member of being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I obviously don't think he was a false prophet. And what's really funny about this was originally it was supposed to be him against another guy, and then that other guy wasn't even Mormon. He's not even LDS. So they reached out to me and they said, "Okay, good news, you're up." I was like, "Yeah, I'll take it," because I just thought it was funny. You're gonna have somebody who's not even LDS debating this? Okay, sure. Why don't I debate how hard it is to be black in America?
You got it.
Brilliant.
You read books, so you know. Hey man,
I've done learned.
Yeah, this has been great. We will see you guys.
2.5 hours, dude. This is old school.
Yeah, we were rocking today. Thank you guys for joining in. Liberty, man, we sure appreciate you. We will see you guys next week. Hopefully, we'll keep trying to get guests, man. Eventually, one of them will show up.
All right. Yeah, you too, Thad. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day, Liberty. Thad, you guys, out to the guys out there in the universe. Today's our day. Enjoy the socks and the presents you're going to get tonight.
The one day we matter.
Later. Yeah, I know, right? See you guys next week. Bye, everyone. I got to take the banner down. Take the banner down and end stream.
Gee, Ray, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
All right, yo, let's get into it.
Try to take over the world. Try to take over the world.
And greatest chaplain in the world, Mr.
Try
Lance
to
O'Neill.
take over the world.